So you will find that often some multiples will bring a third party in. If, for example, if they're twins, they'll bring a third party in so that third party can fulfill both of their sexual needs, but they already have their companionship together. So you always hear them say, we're doing life together. This is our life. This is our partnership, but we're bringing you into it. So for me, as a twin, it's nothing I would ever consider, like, at all. But
sounds like something you've tried, Anissa.
I know, it's nothing
Sophie.
Hi, I'm Luanda.
Hey, I'm Linda E.
And I'm Anissa. Welcome to episode 4 of Ethnically Speaking. So we are 4 fabulously smart, opinionated and curious women of colour representing the UK. We're here to discuss everything and anything that affects our community, from current affairs to pop culture and everything in between. Nothing is off limits and we always keep it 100. So forget tiptoeing around topics and technically speaking, because today we are ethnically speaking. Now, if you're new to the Ethnically Speaking family, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Don't forget, if you haven't discovered them yet, we have 3 incredible episodes that you can binge watch this weekend. Okay, it might make you laugh, it might make you cry, but what I can guarantee is that you're going to definitely learn something. So check it out. We have Sophie, my girl. Sophie, what's on your mind today? What are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking very much about last week's episode. And you know, when we talked about reparations and the responsibility for rebuilding the African continent, basically when we looked at like the negative impacts of countries like China mass producing African wax prints and then selling it back to the continent of Africa. But I don't know if you ladies are aware, but China is actually the biggest financier of African infrastructure projects. And, you know, remember they lent, that was it, $1 billion line of credit to Singer Akon for his Light in Africa project, where they were doing like solar panels, electricity across the continent. But I guess it really got me wondering, while the infrastructure and the investment in it is a good idea, it's needed, it's welcomed, do you think Africa is becoming too reliant on China and really just setting themselves up for inescapable debt? I don't know. What do you ladies think?
Girl, I'm seeing him in my dashiki crop top giving you clavicle.
That's clavicle.
But you know, I feel as though I feel like Africa is becoming a bit too dependent on China, if I'm honest with you. Reason being, Africa are in a position where they won't be able to pay back the debt to China. COVID has made things more difficult.
Yeah.
Akon's already owing them $1 billion. Like, let's not come on, not even 1 million, 1 billion. And I understand Akon's in debt, but I understand, you know, there's positives coming from it. I understand that there needs to be a cash injection from somewhere. But let's not forget what happened to Haiti. You know, when Haiti became independent, I believe it was the USA that made it difficult for Haiti to have trade deals with certain places. Or was it France? I think maybe in France, who said, you know what, okay, because you have come independent from us, we're gonna triple how much you owe and make it basically crippled Haiti with debt. And I'm afraid that China might try to do the same to Africa. You know, they're printing money for Zimbabwe. They got one deal with Zimbabwe. I don't know, man. I don't know.
The thing is, I want to give China the benefit of the doubt. And I know it sounds wild to say. I know it honestly sounds wild to say. But because I didn't know too much of what was going on. Like, I'd heard for years, my friends tell me, like, there's starting to be, like, a large Chinese community in Nigeria. And I was always like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I didn't particularly understand what was going on. And they're like, yeah, they're opening a lot of businesses, buying land and building roads and things. And I was always curious as to why China decided to come over to Africa. Like, it just baffled me. I couldn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. But then, so for me, it felt fishy then. But then I did read that China said that they wanted to create a partnership between them and Africa. So I thought, okay, well, it doesn't sound like they want to take advantage. And I know it's extremely naive. It is extremely naive. But I just want to start to believe in the good of people. And like, so someone tells me they want to do a partnership, I'm just going to go with, okay, they want to be equals. I'm not saying there's no shady stuff going on, because in partnerships, there's always shady stuff. But can we give China the benefit of the doubt that they might
Well,
like tie
do you
these?
know what? I'm kind of with you. Like, you guys, if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see Linda's face, but she's literally just like, I don't believe it. China are not in it. China are not in it to benefit anybody. That's basically what your face is saying. But the point is, Africa is borrowing money anyway. Like, the continent is borrowing money to build their infrastructure because there's so much possibility in the continent. There's so much opportunities, but without roads, without jobs, they're not able to do these things, without railways. So
Electricity
this money is actually really helping them to build. And I was really like, oh, I think China are in it for kind of like illegal gain. Well, not illegal, legal gain, but not to profit Africa. But I was really seeing, when I read up on it, that China are giving them contracts and deals that no other continent is giving them. Like, they're giving them lower interest rates, better terms for contracts, whereas other countries are trying to make sure that when they lend money, they have to give back much more, give back their produce, give back this, give back that, when China are giving them a better deal. So I'm like, who isn't going to go for the better deal?
I think what we should be looking at is the intentions behind the trade. So it frustrates me, first of all, that people see African countries as these places that would cease to exist if we didn't donate £3 a month to, because all of the casual luxuries that we associate with being in the West come from materials that we have sourced from Africa. So like our iPhones, a lot of the materials from that are sourced from Africa. The gas that you fill up your car with, the materials that also make up the car, the gold and the diamonds in your jewelry, and even minerals that I can't pronounce, so I won't even try to, come from a lot of African countries. So China has always had the intention to be technologically advanced. Yeah. And to do that, you need the materials, and which means you need the African countries. So I think that, first of all, this is not a new realization on China's part. China and Africa's trade actually increased by 700% from 1990. And for the most part, the infrastructure that they're doing is airports, like Sophie was saying, roads, railways. But if we think about it, what can those things do? Airports, roads, railways, forms of transport for the things that you want to get out of Africa to China, right? So if you are building Africa in this sense, it is obviously going to directly affect your country in a positive way. So I think when we look at the intent behind the trade, then we need to look at, all right, if you are in control of the infrastructure, then how well are you treating your workers? How well are they paid?
Well, I think that's definitely, I think one of the issues with the African the infrastructure in this scenario is that whereas China is the biggest financier, Africa still has the largest money input into the infrastructure. Like, China isn't putting in the most money. What they are the country who's putting in the most, but Africa is still putting in the majority. The country has to still put in the majority. And I think what we can begin to do is make it out like Africa, we feel sorry for the continent or the countries. They're not really gaining anything. But when they open up airports and railways and ports, and can they have better roads to the sea and shipping, it helps them to trade with other countries and not just China. It opens up their ability to do that. And currently, without the roads, without the railways, they don't have the access to that. So I think it is a win-win. But I think the issue is, because China has more of the money, they're going to have more of the leverage. But I think that Africa, the continent, is getting so much from this as well. And I don't think they should be looked upon as the poorer uncle.
Do you know what? I think you're right. Do you know what? Like, as I'm sitting here and I'm deep in it, it does really benefit Africa in terms of even tourism. My thing is this, when Christopher Columbus went to discover America, did he come there and tell them they were gonna be in a did he tell the settlers there, the original people that were there, that they were gonna be in a partnership? Or did he with open intentions? And I think that is why I'm kind of like side-eyeing China, because it's just I would love to say that I do not think that what happened in the past could happen again now. But the truth is, you never really know.
You're right, Linda. You're absolutely right. That's why I said, like, I hate to say it, I'm being naive in saying it, but there could be possible shadiness. And that's no offense to particularly China, but like they could possibly, even though they're saying right now, like, well, we're a partnership, we're working together, it's all great. Like they might start to play dirty if Africa starts to do something that they don't want, or for example, if they decide to have better trading relationships with another country or continent, then it could cause an issue. And I think that's when we'll really see what their intentions are.
One of the biggest people complaining about this is the West. It's like the USA and the UK. They're the ones who are saying, oh, China are being unfair to the continent. But I'm like, but if they weren't borrowing from China, who would they be borrowing from? You want them to borrow from you when you know that you don't have a good as term as China. So people in China, I was reading this BBC article and they were just like, don't get caught up in what the West is trying to say. Like, we are actually doing a better deal because they would have to borrow anyway to build this stuff. And it's better that they borrow from us because we're giving them better terms. But they're also saying they want access to their mining. So everyone needs to make a buck. It's a business deal. Like, when you enter into a contract, the person with the more power is going to have more rights. They're going to get more out of it. And we shouldn't think about it like it's any different because lots of countries are in debt.
Yeah,
All countries borrow money. We shouldn't be thinking that, well, Africa needs to stand alone. I'm just like, every continent has debt to somebody.
The only thing I'm going to throw in there, I'm just going to throw this out here. While China are out here, building up this partnership with Africa, can they tell their citizens to stop mistreating the black people that are there? Did that filter anywhere in these discussions, or is that not part of the deal? Is that how it works? Like they can give money to Africa, but their people, the countries themselves that have African people in it, they're being barred from McDonald's. They're being thrown out. Trying to make it make sense, though.
Yeah, because this is why I was looking at their intentions, because the amount of anti-blackness in China or in East Asian countries in general that is not addressed, that is affecting the community so negatively. And even since the coronavirus, because I know that a lot of East Asian people were complaining about experiencing racism from people being like, oh, you have the coronavirus and all that ridiculousness. But even within China, like what you were saying, Linda, like African people sitting down to eat and then being kicked out of restaurants and things like that, it just makes me feel like you don't really care about the people. Like Sophie was saying about the person in the contract with the most power is going to have the most power. So are you treating your workers well? That is important to me, because you actually just want the resources and you want the African country for what they can provide for your country. You don't really care about the African people inside of it. So that's why I'm like, let's just look at this broadly,
Yeah, Luanda, I'm definitely going to say they do not care about the people. Like Sophie said, this is a business deal. They literally only care for the It's kind of like what we were speaking about last week with the Windrush. The British people only cared for the people that were coming over from the West Indies so they could help rebuild their country. Like the government cared so you can help rebuild our country, but everybody else here did not care. It's literally just a business transaction. This is a business deal and they don't care. So they're not going to address the treatment that's going to go on with minorities in their country. I mean, obviously, we know China, the way they dress up their information sometimes isn't correct. So surely they're going to deny everything that's happening. But we do know that these people are suffering.
Allegedly suffering. Allegedly, some people may be suffering. We would just like to say.
I really know they don't really care about us.
I think I just agree. I think it's a business deal at the end of the day. And I think one of the issues is that even though they're putting money into infrastructure, they are actually sending a lot of their workers over to the countries in Africa to work. And I think that was another one of the issues that people had with the different countries being so reliant on the funding, because they're like, it's not affecting the local people. Like in terms of affecting or helping the country, yeah. So if they're helping in Zambia, for example, they're like, well, it might help the country because we might open up a port or an airport or do a road, but how does it affect money into the local economy? Because all you're doing is bringing over Chinese workers, and then African workers are still not able to build up their local economies. And I think it's such a complicated issue.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like you even saying that is making me think, because I don't know too much about it, only a little bit because it's in my family a bit, but I don't focus on it too much, is that, like, you know, there were a lot of indentured laborers from China that came to the West Indies, and obviously in Jamaica now, they've got a small Chinese community, and obviously people in my family are Chinese Jamaican, and you know what is what it is. And I've never really sat down and thought about, how did you guys get here and why are you here? Like, do you know what I mean? I haven't actually sat and thought about that. So you're really making me think, like, when they came over to Jamaica, like, did they affect the local economy? Now I've got to think.
I think there's also a point to be made when, I can't remember who was saying earlier, I think it was you, Sophie, that was saying it is mainly the West that is complaining about the relationship between China and Africa, because we all know that if it wasn't China receiving these trades, it would be the UK, it would be America, it would be other countries in Europe. And it's really interesting because if we look at the beginning of the colonization of Africa, something that sparked like a catalyst for it was a man, and I can't remember if he was in, I can't remember Swedish or if he was Dutch, but a European man basically brought a part in Africa, and not like how, you know, you have, you know, British colonies or Dutch colonies or blah, blah, blah. He literally brought land. He owned the land in Africa. He brought this. I can't remember how big it was, but it was land, and he brought that. And so everyone else was like, oh, damn, no, he's got this, so he can mine this. So now what are we going to do? And then the scramble begins. And, you know, we all know that, you know, the real reason for World War II was to carve out the parts of Africa that, you know, the European or whichever countries wanted. So I think that sometimes people, it's kind of like, you know, when you take it, when a child is sitting next to a toy and you pick up a toy and they weren't playing with it, but now they want to play with it because you're playing with it. That's how I feel like people are reacting to the situation. But like, but now if they get the oil, what are we going to have, and which countries are we going to go to, and things like that, you know?
No, I think we need to get away from saying that the continent is a victim in all of this, because I was watching a video with Akon, and he was talking about his Light in Africa project. And he was saying, he tells so many people there is so much opportunity in the country. Across the continent, they still deal in money heavily. It's not really credit cards. Cash is king. And they were like, so in terms of that, in terms of someone coming over there to work, there is a lot of power there when you can still deal in currency and you're not dealing in credit and whatever. So now I think Africa is virgin territory for a lot of different things, and they're trying to capitalize on it by using what China are bringing to build something that they're not able to. So I don't think that they're the victim in this whatsoever.
I agree to an extent with Sophie. I don't think Africa are completely the victim in this. But what Luanda's saying has a lot of sense, because, you know, the UK and America, are they not the same people who are making it incredibly difficult for African migrants to come here to work or to study? Are they not the same people that are doing this? So for them to be complaining, I'm almost like, all right, China, go ahead, man, go ahead. If it's upsetting these guys, China, go do your thing, you know?
But I guess in terms of like the question about it bringing around debt, I think now, and I think Linda, you said it briefly, with COVID-19, we're actually starting to see the reality of that, because a lot of countries in the continent are starting to say, we're not producing, like a lot of the things that we make, we need things from China in order to manufacture those things. And now with China being kind of shut down in importing and exporting, China has had to say they're cancelling some of the loans that they were given because they're like, people can't pay. And now we're going to start to see a debt accumulation, because whereas we feel like, well, in fact, no one apart from Boris Johnson seems to think that COVID-19 has ended. The rest of us are very aware that it's still going on, but we don't know how long it's going to go on for. And whereas they were already in debt, like we have debt with like our mortgage or whatever, the money needs to be paid. They can give us a holiday for like a couple of months, but the money needs to come from somewhere. And I think this idea of China and Africa in debt is going to become very real in the next 1 to 2 years, because we're going to see the fallout from China, because China's losing a lot of money. So they're not going to be allowing people to default on loans for a long period of time.
I agree.
It will be interesting to see what the next few years look like. You know what? Another opposite point though, right? You know, in my head, it's like, okay, so China are making this partnership with Africa. But almost, would it not be easier for it to be America or the UK, because they already speak the same language?
No, but I think they've already seen what the people from the UK have done, and they decided to go with a new person. Not to get the truth. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, to me, if I've already seen someone do me wrong, but and then somebody else has come in, but I'm not sure if they're going to do me wrong, but I've seen what they've done to others before, but it's confusing. I'm going to go with the lesser of two evils and go with the person who hasn't wronged me yet.
Or wronged you as much. It's like looking, if you want to get a mortgage, you're going to look around to various different banks and say, who's offering me the best for my buck? Like, first you think, what do I want? If I want a house here, or if I want a house there, or do I want to pay a bigger deposit, or do I want this? Who's going to offer me the best rate? And I think that's what we're seeing with Africa right now. And I'm glad, and hopefully with China, it's allowing them to come to the table and have a bit more power than they would if they did with the UK and the US.
I definitely think that's something that we need to think about. Like, we just need to weigh up, are the minerals and oils that you're exchanging for your infrastructure worth it? Like, is the debt worth the way that the people are going to be treated? Like, just weigh up the scales, see what happens, you know. But speaking of inescapable debt, kind of has me thinking about inescapable terminology as well. There has been a recent focus on diversity as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement that has sparked in the past couple of weeks. And so everyone now is looking at the BAME community and how they're treated and how they're represented. For anyone that doesn't know, BAME means Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, and it is essentially just a term that people use to describe anyone who is not white. So people for a long time have had an issue with it. And because we're having so many more articles now saying, oh, BAME community this and BAME community that, it has brought up the conversation again of people not being comfortable with the term BAME. So I wanted to ask you guys, do you like the term BAME? And if you don't like it, what would you rather we use instead?
I'm gonna go first, ladies. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not really comfortable with the term. I think it's just too broad. I think it's way too big. Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, that's millions of people. Let's talk about the UK in general. That is millions of people. And it really makes it out like we're one homogenous group, like we're all kind of the same. So when you say a BAME issue, oh, okay, but it doesn't affect us all the same. We're millions of different people, various races, various cultures, various languages, and putting us all together means that when something comes up or an issue, how are you dealing with any of it? Because you're trying to make it out like you're one person. We're not.
I agree with Sophie. To be honest, as I've grown up, as I've matured and, you know, wizened up,
like fine wine, let
them know, girl. I'm actually wondering if I have a problem with the word black. Not just BAME itself. I'm contemplating, you know, the word black, where it stemmed from. You know, do I even want to keep using that? Let alone BAME. I think the word BAME. I've always been awkward to say the word BAME. Like, I've never said it with vim. Like, I've always said it and just been, so I swear that I've always been like, oh, people from the BAME background. That's everyone. So if we deep it, I don't want to use the word black anymore. I want to start saying African Caribbean. I want to start saying melanated people, if I'm just being honest with you. So yeah, BAME for me, you ain't gonna catch me using that term, boy.
I completely understand people being uncomfortable with the term BAME. I will say though that I do think it is necessary to have a word that describes everyone who isn't white, but I only think it's necessary to use that word when you are describing everyone who isn't white, because sometimes you're going to be talking about an issue that's affecting the black community. So black with a capital B. And like Sophie said, there's going to be issues that, like, for example, if there was a British person who has East Asian heritage, I'm not going to understand their experience. So say their community and name their culture. We can be specific. There's nothing wrong with being specific. Like, when we group us all together, it excludes our nuances, and then that in turn excludes our individualism. It excludes our identity, and that's very frustrating, because even us on this call don't have the same experiences. We don't have the same heritage, and we're all black. Well, you know what I mean? So, but you can't just throw us in a whole, oh, we're all BAME. Like, it doesn't make sense. I use the term people of colour, and I use that quite comfortably. I refer to myself as a woman of colour, and that kind of just rolls off the tongue. But I don't think that it should be the term that we use to replace BAME with, because I really think that we need to think about terminology that still associates us with whiteness, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like, white is the default, white is the norm, white people are people, but everyone else is a person of colour. And for example, if I was to tell you a story and I was to say there was a woman walking down the street and she reached into her handbag, everyone in their mind is going to envision a white woman, because white is allowed to be the default. And we've trained that to be in our mind, where if we look at everyone who is BAME, I have an issue as well with the word minority ethnic, or ethnic minority, whichever way you want to flip it. And we spoke about language last week and how important it is. I think that needs to just be scrapped as a whole, because BAME people make up the global majority. You know, the biggest demographic in the world in terms of popularity is everyone that you consider to be BAME. So the term minority ethnic, not only does it insinuate feelings of powerlessness, it also is just inaccurate as well as a term. I think that when we have words like BAME, it also kind of adds a hierarchy into BAME people. So it's like you're saying Black, Asian, and everyone else. That's what it sounds like to me. And even though everyone who's a person of colour gets othered, you're even othering people of colour in the others category, which is ridiculous to me. And Linda literally just said something, and I got this from a Janelle Monáe song, when she said highly melanated. So I like the term highly melanated people. I think that's what we should replace BAME with. It's accurate, it describes us, it doesn't have a hierarchy, and it doesn't associate us with being opposite to white. So it's like, we are highly melanated people. I put 1 vote in for that.
Votes.
I honestly just think you should refer to yourself with whatever term you feel comfortable with, because personally for me, like, I did use the word BAME, and I use it in the beginning to kind of group us all together, and then I had to take like a look at why I was using that word, and then I was kind of like, I don't like it. And it wasn't even just because of, it actually wasn't even because of my own experience. It was because I felt so bad for the other racial groups that they had just been lumped, and that it was like, okay, we care about white issues. If we're saying there's racism, then we're focusing on Black issues, but then there's other races that have other issues. And of course, I'm Black, so I mainly only focus on my issues, but I want to acknowledge that other racial groups are having other issues, and me just saying BAME is just like me just like putting a lid on them. And I just really did not like it. And I know like people use it to group everyone together, but don't just list it out so you can be specific. As Luanda said, just be specific. Do you know what I mean? But I also know that there are people who are uncomfortable by identifying somebody by their race or by their color. Because me personally, when somebody asks, like, I'll say I'm Black, but I also just identify from where I come from. So I always say, oh, I'm Caribbean. I'm an island girl. But like you always hear me say things like that. But I remember working in retail, and we were on the shop floor, and my manager, who was a white lady from Essex, and she was like, oh, can you go? We were in a department store, so she was like, oh, go to that concession over there, because that lady over there, she has a pair of shoes that I like. Can you ask her if she has my size? Blah blah blah. I said, what girl? Because all 3 of the workers were standing together. So I was like, which one? She said, oh, the one that's in all black. I said, they're all in all black. Like, which one are you talking about? She's like, the one that has her hair in one. I was like, 2 of them have their hair in one. Who are you talking about? She's like, she has a bit of a puff. I said, the Black girl. She said, why don't you just say the Black girl? She was the only Black one there. I didn't know who you were on about. And she was just like, oh, I just feel so uncomfortable saying the word Black. And I was like, I get it, but then I don't feel uncomfortable saying the word white, so I also don't get it. And that's just what I'm doing.
You know what? I agree with you so much, and I think that's the flip side of this whole BAME discussion, because I did some research, and I think it was in a BBC article, and they were talking about where the word Black came from and the word BAME came from. It was really interesting, because they were saying before the 1950s, the word Black in terms of a reference to people was seen as like really derogatory. And it wasn't until the civil rights in America that people in the UK started to identify as black, because it became a political statement then to try and say people who were oppressed or were facing disadvantages because of their skin color. And that's when we owned the term black. And they said BAME came in like the 80s and 90s, because that's when there was an influx of people coming again from black origin, from Asian origin. They were like, in terms of the census, they were like, how do we make, what's the word? How do we show that there are people now from other communities? How do we let them know that there are other communities now, and it's not just white people? So it seems like it came from a good place, because they wanted to put on the census, we want to recognize that there are people of black minority, of Asian minority. But I think now the term is being used to deal with some of the uncomfortable things that we have with race, in terms of people just saying the word black or white or Asian. Because in America, everybody is very comfortable with saying African American. Everyone white, because that's their name. But here in the UK, saying the word black still seems very political to people, where the majority of people are saying, if you want to call me black, that's fine, because that's what I am.
Here's the thing, Sophie, right? So I want to try and hit all three of you right now. What I think is done in that census is taking the time to find out which countries and communities people are from. It's just laziness grouping a group of people. Let's make it easy for us. Let's not take the time to find out exactly what their specific nuances are. Let's just put a word together that will make it easy for us to categorize. So they should have actually taken the time to list it. Listen, these countries and these, for example, if you're from Nigeria, you're Nigerian. These words exist for a reason. Let's not go into these countries' names though, because they were divided out when Africa was. But anyways, and also, Anissa, I have a very similar story to you, and it does to, I think, white people and them feeling comfortable referring to people as black or melanated or whatever. So I used to work in this office, and this lovely girl, really lovely girl, I still speak to her now. She is white, lived in Switzerland for a long time, worked for the So we had gone to the gym. I introduced her to my friend, shout out Leon, black guy. So, right? She comes to me one day. She's like, oh, Linda, I was speaking to your friend at the gym. I was like, oh, which one, babe? She's like, oh, that guy. I was like, babe, which guy? I know quite a few guys at the gym. She was like, the African American one. I said, darling, we are in the UK. You can say. I'm like, my girl called him African American.
It's a more comfortable term. That's my point. People are much more comfortable to say African American.
That's not realistic though, because what? Like, I have been held to African American stereotypes my whole life, and I'm British Caribbean, so like make it make sense. Do you know what I mean? It's really frustrating that people think that I think that this stems from people even thinking saying the word black is racist, or acknowledging someone's race is racist. Yeah. Because like you guys, I was in a scenario when a girl, I was with a girl and someone was like, oh, we want to know if you're single. She says, who wants to know? It's like, oh, me and then they name the other person. And she was like, oh, is that the I said, the black one. The black one. He's the black one. Like, come on. But I understand 100%, like I said earlier, when it's necessary to be specific, then be specific. But I also do think we do need a term for everyone who isn't white, because there are experiences that every person who is not a white person is going to experience. And it's not realistic to say, if we were talking about the coronavirus disproportionately affecting communities of colour, it's not realistic for us to be saying the coronavirus disproportionately affects Nigerian and Jamaican descendant and blah, 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 blah. You need to be able to have a word that includes everyone, but that isn't like as problematic as BAME. Yeah, that's why I suggested highly melanated people. But we do.
I agree, Luanda.
Go on, girl.
No, go ahead.
I guess for me, I think even having BAME does a disservice to white people as well, because it clumps all white people together. And you have white British, you have Irish, you have Romanian British, all these different people who are treated differently. Like someone with an Irish accent or Romanian British are going to be treated differently. If you're from a different socioeconomic class, you might be classed as white, but your experience is also going to be very different from someone who's white middle class. So it doesn't even help them either, or talk about their specific nuances in terms of being white. And from something that you said earlier that I really wanted to say, I just hate the term person of color, because when you think of colouring something in, the white is the default. Now you've been coloured.
That's why I said we shouldn't use it to replace it. Yeah.
For me, I don't like that, because I'm just going to be like, we're all a colour. The whole point of you saying that we're highly melanated is because we have more melanin than white people. So we all have a colour, we just have more of it. So when you say person of colour, I'm just like, we're all coloured. So I'm not different. You're coloured. You're just a different colour. Just call me black. That's what I'm trying to say. Call me black. Black is black. I'm black.
Black. But I understand that as well, though, because like I understand Linda's issue with even the word black, because again, it's then still relating to whiteness. It's like the opposite of white, you know, because we don't, like I said, with doing the scenario, like if I was to talk about people, the first thing that you're going to imagine is a white person until I tell you otherwise, because we're all trained to see white culture and see whiteness and see white people as the default version. Like I don't have a problem with being called black or being called a woman of color, but if we're moving forward, we do need to address the problematic issues within those terms. And so like I understand, like when you're talking about the history, like, okay, it used to be derogatory, it used to be this, it used to be that. So we have to think about the power behind it. Because if you want to call like an Asian person Asian, you're going to call them Asian. You're not going to call them whatever their skin color looks like to you. And especially because black is political, because we all know black people with white skin. They have white skin, but they're black people. So we need to work on it. Again, in terms of the replacement of the BAME, I still suggest highly melanated people. But for now, things like it's a work in progress. We all just gotta work together.
But that's the thing. Language
your
does.
suggestions in the suggestion box, and we'll review it over the weekend.
We will review. Language develops over years, over centuries.
Yeah,
100%. This conversation is so juicy and important, and I think for me as well, the reason why I'm like, firstly, would you believe, right? This is how you know I wasn't even feeling BAME. I couldn't even clock what the M and the E stood for.
Yes. I didn't know until a couple of years ago, Linda. Honestly, I'm just like, I mean, I know it means all people of colour, but I'm not sure what it's like.
I was like, black, Asian, black. I was like black, Asian, or black and minority. I couldn't figure it out. But, you know, the word black is problematic because if you think about it, you know, it's black magic. And the black cat isn't good luck, and you know it's but it's just all the things that are associated with being black. I will still refer to myself as black now and again. I'm trying to go over to like melanated people. The word melanated, it just sounds so beautiful.
Linda, would you ever say that you were brown? Would you ever say that you were brown?
My boyfriend says that I'm chocolate.
But I think that's what it comes down to, like, because in this call already, in this discussion, everyone has said that they want to be referred to by something different, and I think it's very much like pronouns. Ask somebody how they want to be referred to. Like, once we're past the job description, like, because I understand why it has to say BAME on the job description, because it very clearly, we understand who you're trying to give the opportunity to. So there needs to be something, but past that point, ask people what they want to be referred to, because they will let you know. Like, also, I just want to say, I don't feel like let's get stuck on the words too much, because let's talk about the injustices still, about the fact that there aren't BAME people in senior levels, because we want to focus on the word, but it's like, actually, let's focus on the problems that they're dealing with.
But listen, I think we can focus on both at the same time because they're interlinked. Like exactly what Linda was just saying about everything to do with whiteness is related to purity and goodness. And like, if you're getting married, you're pure, so you're wearing a white dress. If you're going to a funeral, you're sad, so you're wearing black. Like everything is connected. So we can talk about both at the same time, I feel.
We can do. But listen, if you are watching via YouTube, please do not forget to like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so that you are kept up to date with all our episodes, everything that we are bringing to ya. Right, so ladies, I'm gonna switch gears with this next discussion. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this next thing I'm gonna talk about, it had me on edge. Like my eyes were wide open. So I don't know if any of you guys saw the drama. The drama with Will Smith, August Alsina, and Jada Pinkett Smith. So for those of you guys who don't know, August Alsina, he's a singer. He's been, in and out, part of the Pinkett Smith family for a while. He did an interview with Angela Yee, and this guy, he came out to say that he had been in an intimate, sexual, year-long relationship with Jada, and Will gave his permission. Now, Jada is saying that this doesn't happen. She's bringing herself to Red Table Talks to heal. Will Smith is saying that he didn't give no permission. It's just a whole mess, right? But it had me thinking, basically what he said is that Will and Jada, they kind of transitioned from being husband and wife to now being life partners. And being a life partner isn't the same as, you know, an intimate relationship that a husband and wife has. And I'm hearing loads of terms like, you know, polygamy and polyandry and open relationship and sister wives. So I just want to know, I don't know what I think, right? But I want to know, is having more than one person in a relationship the norm now? Like, is this the new wave? Am I behind? Somebody tell me, please.
Linda, I don't want to say that you're behind. First of all, I will say I did see it, and August, I've seen it. If you're watching, you're my baby. I love you. If you need some healing, I'm here for you.
That personal shout out, yeah?
I'm just keeping it clear.
Shout out, okay.
I've been loving him. Let's make that very
I've been loving
He's
been loving Jada.
Doesn't lie. He is nice.
So if he wants to be polyamorous, it's okay, August, with me. Okay, but I will say for the new. Okay, so do I think it's the new normal? I wouldn't say it's the new normal, but I do think it is on the rise. So because I've seen this in media, like over the last few years, we're seeing lots of shows about, you know, sister wives or open relationships or multiple relationships and polyamorous relationships, and they can happen at any kind of degree where everyone's in a relationship together or there's one person has multiple different relationships. I read actually the other day that in the UK, 1/5 of people are actually in a polyamorous relationship. And that shocked my mind that the numbers were that high.
Cheating.
Yeah.
Yes, so there was a lot going on. And I have a perspective on this, right? But it's almost too wild to say right now. I'm going to...
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Tell me. I want to know it.
Okay. I'm not speaking... I want to make this very clear. I'm not speaking on the behalf of the multiple community, but I'm going to let you know there is different things happen in the multiples versus the single born world, okay? So when I say multiples, that is anybody who's a twin, triplet, quad, quint, as it goes up, okay? We just have different vibes now. In the multiple community over the last 10 to 20 years, there has actually been a rise in polyamorous relationships. And it's because basically, like, it's so hard to explain. But as a multiple, this kind of intimacy that you would get from a normal relationship with a partner, the kind of intimacy, the life partnership, the companionship, all of that, you actually already get from your multiple because you've had that your whole life. And so the only element that you need different is that kind of sexual component. So you will find that often some multiples will bring a third party in. If, for example, if they're twins, they'll bring a third party in so that third party can fulfill both of their sexual needs, but they already have their companionship together. So you always hear them say, we're doing life together. This is our life. This is our partnership, but we're bringing you into it. So for me, as a twin, it's nothing I would ever consider, like, at all. But
sounds like something you've tried, Anissa.
I know, it's nothing I've tried, guys. But I always want to know what's going on. I always want to know what's going on with my people, what us multiples are thinking. So I'm always, I'm staying hot on the trot with it. And so when I read that, I understood it because I already have a life partner. That's my twin sister, but in a platonic way. So I understand why then some multiples would be like, you know what, let's just bring in a third party. They can fulfill all our sexual needs and we'll just continue to do life together. So I have a different perspective on that. So personally, I wouldn't do it, but it is on the rise in the multiple community. And that's what I'll say.
I'm so glad that you shared that. Like, it's really opened up my mind as to how this can work for some people.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, I don't even know if I can speak on this subject without an unbiased lens, because I come from like a Christian background. So that has heavily dictated how I look at relationships. So for me, it's always two people in a relationship. But even that, as a Christian, that's not the case in the Bible. There's rare relationships where there was pure wife, pure this, pure that. So it does happen, and it still happens in parts of the world. For some people, it's very much cultural. And I think the thing to understand with polyamorous is that it's everybody's consent. Because some people might feel like, oh, I'm polyamorous because I got 2 girls on the go. No, my friend, they don't know about each other. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about everybody knows and everybody is consenting that this is going on. But I'm really glad that you gave that different perspective. And I think that I was shocked as well that it's just so common. I read this, was in Self magazine, and it was saying how 21% of Americans said, yeah, they've had polyamorous relationships. And I was just like, oh, like that's a fifth of people. That's a lot.
Wrong.
I would never. I would. I'm not a sharer.
I'm not. Listen, me. I don't even share food, but I did read an encounter in. I think it must have been the Metro, and it was a was it a woman? It was from a woman's perspective, and she had entered a polyamorous, whatever you say, however you pronounce it, relationship with 2 men, right? And she said eventually she didn't like it. Eventually, she settled down with one of them. And what was exciting and fun became draining and became... You got to remember this, right? If giving yourself to someone comes with its own drama, it comes with its own headache. Having to now consider someone is its own thing. So now you're having to consider 2 people, because it's more than just sex. An open relationship is more than just, we're having sex with loads of people. It's literally, I'm affectionate to this person. I consider their feelings. I think about them. And I just think, I do not have the energy. I do not want to do that. I also, no, listen, my boyfriend already knows, but it's just, for me, I can't even say no enough.
But I think that's really important to understand, because I've been married now for coming up to 2 years, and thank you, ladies. And for my friends who were like, oh, what did you say? Do you like, oh, girl, you know?
No, she was they were clapping and I missed it. And then I was gonna look like I'm not here for her marriage if I start clapping.
So I was gonna say, I regularly try to break it down for like my friends who are still single. It's still hard work. Like, don't let these relationship goals online fool you that because I'm now with my husband, that we don't have to put in just as much effort, if not more, to stay committed, to stay together. I've just decided by being married that you're the person I want to do this with. But it's hard work. And I think that's what a lot of the articles I read about polyamorous relationships were saying, is that it's hard work. There's still jealousies that you have to work out. One woman was talking about she has to work out a rota. Is she going to stay with her husband tonight or her boyfriend? Or can they all share the same bed? So they worked out.
Those sound like some good problems.
When someone stays round, she sleep on her husband's side of the bed, so he will never know that another man has slept on his side of the bed. And they said it takes a lot of work. And I'm like, I don't understand why you'd want to have that much work, because with an open relationship, but some people do, but with an open relationship, that usually they said is sexual. What separates polyamorous is that, as you said, Linda, it's now emotional. And I'm just like, I don't know if I've got enough emotional energy to give to 2 men. And I know my husband's definitely going to say he can't handle more than one Sophie, because I'm a lot.
Come on!
I'm a lot. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, for me, if you feel enabled to do it, then more power to you. But it's definitely a lifestyle. It's not something that you dip your toe in and dip in and out of.
Well, I will say that I don't really see myself being in an open relationship, but I stay open to open relationships. Only because I've never been in. So, for example, like Will and Jada, I don't know how long they've been married. But I've never been married, and I've never been in a long-term relationship that's lasted years and years and years, to the point where you choose a life partner and you know that this is the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, and you know that nothing can change that love. So you are willing to explore other areas. And like, that seems like a beautiful thing to me. It doesn't seem like a beautiful thing for me, though, you know?
Break that down, girl. What do you mean by that? It's beautiful, but it's not for you. Tell me.
So, like, I love the idea of it. I really do. And I wish I was that kind of person, but I don't see myself being comfortable. I don't see myself being in love and being comfortable with that person that I'm in love with, having relations with other people. I think maybe if I got, like, I'm speaking from an experience of like never being married. Maybe if I got to that position and you know someone, you've been in that long-term relationship, it might change. But for now, I don't really see that in my future. But like I said, I wouldn't rule it out for myself, but I just don't see it happening for me right now. I will say though, I don't think like, because I think Sophie said something about like don't dip your toe in or something like that. I think that you can explore, but I think to anyone who is thinking about exploring or is currently exploring an open relationship, what they need to do is have communication at the forefront of their priorities. And you need to be willing to address the power imbalances within your relationships. Because I think a lot of the time, and I've seen this from people that I know in open relationships, a lot of the time it works more for one partner than it does for the other. And I hate seeing that so much. Sometimes I think when you fall in love with someone, I think it's really easy to try and become the person that you think they want you to be. And sometimes that is at the expense of losing yourself. And I truly do not agree with that. And I think sometimes people are really, really, really fearful of being alone. Sometimes they've chosen someone and they're like, oh, but I've spent all this time, we've built this and blah, 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 and I don't want to let them go. So maybe I should be open to this. I don't think anyone should be compromising. I don't think anyone should be doing something they don't want to do. I don't think people should be allowing their partners to do something that they're too scared to ask for themselves. And I've also seen that as well. And that bothers me a lot. But on the flip side, I have seen open relationships work. Bear in mind, my peers are my age. So like, I'm not talking about open marriages that I've seen work. Open relationships at this point, I've seen like they can be healthy, but we shouldn't think that just because there's more people that it's going to be like crazy, because like you guys were saying, relationships take commitment and they take work and they take communication anyway. So if you're willing to do that for people that you love, and if that happens to be more than one person, then do that. And I think sometimes when we look at celebrities, if we look at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, and we see like a very glamorized version or a very like small snippets of their relationship, when actually that level, and I think for me, from like an outsider looking in who has never met these people, they seem healthy. They seem like they have healthy family dynamics to me. And we should not undermine the amount of love and the amount of communication and the amount of strength that takes to get to that point. We might say, oh, 2 boyfriends, that sounds fun, but but the reality might not be the same thing. So I think that, like I said, communication is key. I'm here for open relationships, but they need to be healthy and they can't be benefiting one person more than the other.
You see, the thing is, I'm going to jump in, Luanda, because I agreed with some of your points and then disagreed, because I agree with you 100% when you said like communication, keep it open, and then if you love someone, then it won't be too crazy, and etc, etc. But I do think there will always be a losing party in this situation. Like, I can't stop thinking that there'll always be a losing party. Like, for example, not to bring it back to them, but in this Will, Jada, August situation, even though allegedly everyone knew what was going on, August has lost in this. You know, he said in the interview, this almost killed him. And that is just an example. I just think that someone always going to lose, because a relationship is hard enough when there's 2 people. I think you just throw anybody else into it just by pure economics, a 3rd party or 4th party or 5th party, there is going to be an elevated amount of drama or emotions, because there is another person bringing their own baggage to the table. I personally would not do it. I respect everyone's choice to do it, but I just think it's a little bit messy. Like, for me, it's just too messy. It's just too much. And I was reading this article of this young lady. She's like 20. She is in a polyamorous relationship with 4 boyfriends, right? And everybody knows each other. Yes, 4. But she's now got pregnant for one of the 4, and they said like they're all going to raise the baby together as one of the father and the other partner said they were going to raise the baby with her. Other 2 aren't really interested, but they all live together. And I just thought, this is quite a confusing situation for a child to grow up in. For me, it was too confusing. That is just my personal thing.
Well, I don't know about that, because you can be like, there are children that don't have any parents. So to have 3 people who are willing to love you and raise you, that is gorgeous. Yes, like, please sign me up.
Mum and only one person's dad, but their mummies with every, like, I don't know, it's confusing.
They're their uncles. They can be their uncles. Everyone's got that uncle, hasn't they?
Well, that's why I think that we need to have these kind of conversations, because I think the more that I think sometimes we let society dictate to us what we should be doing rather than what we want to do. And the more comfortable that we become with open relationships as a society, the more realistic it is for them to work in a healthy way. So I think if we're kind of like ignoring or speaking like, oh, that I don't really get it, like, let's talk about it, you know, because there shouldn't be a child that feels weird because they have 3 parents. There shouldn't be a child that feels weird because they have 2 parents of the same sex. There shouldn't be a child that feels weird because they're raised by a single parent or anything like that. If you are receiving love, you should just be receiving love, and that should be a beautiful thing for start.
Not
but going back to like,
it's not weird that they have 3 parents. For me, it would be weird seeing that I have 3 parents, but then my mum has 4 partners. Like, that would be weird for me as a child. Like,
okay. But then I think again, that goes back to communication and teaching your children what love is, because it's not going to be the same thing for everyone else. Like, I knew someone, it's a kind of a similar situation, but I knew someone who was in a polyamorous relationship, and those 2 people that they were with, I'm trying to use gender neutral pronouns so that they don't know who they are. Those 2 people that they were with had a baby and then left them. So
I'm confused.
Okay.
Left the baby or left the partner?
How many people were in a relationship?
Had the kids
3.
Okay.
They were in a relationship.
Okay.
And this person was willing to be a part of raising this child, but these 2 people said, we're good.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And so I don't know like enough about the relationship to dictate whether it was because it was them and they're not feeling them anymore. But I do think that it takes a very bold person and a person who really, really knows who they are and what they want to go against the grain, because you're having a child. Like, families in our mind, it's like 2 parents and a child. That is families in our heads. So for you to be like, this is what I want and this is my love and this is where it's going to be extended, I think that is brave as hell, and I think that should be commended, and I think that should be encouraged if that's what you want to do.
It's definitely brave as hell, but the only thing I'd say, Sophie, I know you want to jump in. The only thing I'd say quickly to Luanda is, you said something about, you know, not letting society dictate what we do. But my question is this: why would someone want to be in a polyamorous? I can't say that word, guys. You know,
Polyamorous.
Polyamorous. Why would someone want to be in a polyamorous relationship?
Well,
You're gone, babe. Yeah.
I think that was going to be part of my question, and adding on is that, are we saying that something's lacking?
Yes.
I guess for me, that's the question that I would have in terms of, am I saying that what I want to get from my partner, I'm not getting? Because I think for me, if it's coming from that, and I don't know it is, and I'm not saying that it's for polyamorous people, I can only think about it in terms of my own 2-person relationship. Because I don't think that you can get everything from your partner. Like, I don't believe that whatsoever. I think we set people up to feel like, oh, this is my soulmate, and, you know, they're everything I've ever wanted. I'm just kind of like, oh no, I have friends, I have a mother, I have a sister. I can get various different things from various people, but what I get from my husband, he's my best friend and he's my lover, and we have things in common and we do life together. But even in that, some things I cannot get sense out of him. He thinks too much like a man. And I'm just like, I speak to a woman, because they would get this. They would understand this in a heartbeat. And so there is that sort of dynamic as well. So in polyamorous, as you're saying, why do people, is it because they're saying something is missing? Like, or, because online, I read this article in Independent, it was saying that they have so much to give and they believe that love doesn't need to fit the stereotypical mold, and that love doesn't need to be in a infidelity or in a monogamous situation. But for me, I personally feel like, is there something lacking that you feel somebody else can give to you? And is that a sign of something deeper? Or is it that you just have too much love to give? Not too much to give, I think, but a lot of love to give.
But then, okay, so like you said, you have a mother, you have friends, right? Yeah. When you have your friends, you have more than one friend, because you can extend your love to more than one person. You can extend your trust to more than one person. You can extend your loyalty to more than one person. I have like, what? What is that?
I can extend my lady garden to more than one person. I'm talking about when you're bringing in that sexual element of, now I can extend my insides, my body to more than one person. Emotionally, yes. Like, for me, there is obviously a sexual element if you're in a romantic relationship. If you're in a relationship and you're not having sex, you need to think about if you're friends, or go to a counselor, because even counselors would say, if you're not having sex, obviously if there's not stresses or things going on, it's a sign that something is wrong.
Yes.
So if you're saying now that I need to start opening up my body to somebody, I don't understand it. But like I said, I think very specifically from my mentality and my upbringing. So I would just need to have more understanding, because I think on some level I don't really get that, because I feel, I've only ever wanted to open myself up to one person. But again, that's my upbringing and my culture.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, whether it's one person or many people, it's almost impossible, switching gears a little bit, it's almost impossible to get into a relationship without playing the dating game, okay? But not everyone has the same expectations when it comes to dating. So I want to know from you lovely ladies, what's the worst date that you've been on? And when it comes to first dates, should it be somewhere luxury and lavish, or should it be cheap and cheerful? What do you think?
I don't think that a first date needs to be luxury and lavish, personally, because I think sometimes people, when they're trying to sell themselves to a person, they end up selling the lifestyle more than who they are. And then that plays like a factor in the destruction of the relationship later on, when it's like, we used to go to the Cube and now you're taking me to McDonald's. Like, do you know what I mean? So I don't think it should be trashy. I don't think you should like have not thought about it at all, because that's like horrible. But I think you could definitely be creative. And for me, like a good date would be having a creative activity, something more than just dinner and movies, and then also just having a time where you get to know that person. Because the best and worst dates that I've been on have been in terms of the people that I've discovered, and not really the activity that we've done. So if I was to tell you my best date, which I don't, because he'll know who he is, if I was to tell you my best date, it would really be the best connection, and rather than the best activity. In terms of worst dates, this also goes into personality again, I feel, because I went on a date with this guy, and I will take full responsibility because, it was a Tinder date. So what was I really expecting?
No, don't say that. I've people in my family who met on Tinder and they are now engaged with a baby with a mortgage. So some people
can't relate.
My friend is married with a baby and a mortgage, and she met from Tinder.
Yeah.
It's what's going on in the dating apps.
No. What did you say, Anissa?
What's going on the dating apps? I'm not on any, so I was like, is this what's going on?
See, I've deaded Tinder. It's been like ages since I've been on Tinder, but then I've been trying Hinge, and I'm just like, I don't know. Anyways, so this Tinder date, I had been talking to this guy for a while, and I feel like I'm happy that everyone's having these great experiences with Tinder people, but mine are like few and far between, to be honest. Like, it's hard to find people who are not like not looking for the stereotypical thing that you expect like a swiper to be looking for, if you know what I mean. So when I started talking to this guy, I was like, oh my gosh, he's interesting. He was like a teacher as well. So he was like smart. He was giving me good conversation, and he was handsome. So I was like, tick, 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 tickety, tick, tick, tick. Amen. So Sophie said, preaching to the choir. I went to meet him, and he was like unbuttered toast, man. He was dry, and I really feel like there can be something that is like there can be a keyboard confidence, there can be an online persona that you don't bring in real life. Like, I think that, like, in terms of like me, it's kind of like what you see is what you get. Like, who you see online, I hope, is who you meet in person. There's really not much like differentiation between the two. But with him, it was like, and okay, let me just give myself a compliment as well. I'm really good at talking to strangers, and I'm really good at making strangers feel comfortable with me very quickly, which is why most of the time I work in customer service, because like that is a skill that I have. Yeah. So it is not me. I was not the problem. He was just boring. And so I was like, wow, am I really sitting here? You know, when you're making the most effort, you're doing this, you're doing that, they really aren't bringing that much to the table. He also was less attractive in real life. And I know that like a picture and a person, I really feel like humans are attracted to energy. So you can be attracted to a picture and then not attracted to the person when you meet them in real life. But for me, the most important thing is personality. And because his personality was like, you know, when someone's dying and it goes beep, beep, beep.
Oh my days.
He was like,
oh my gosh.
That's it. It was, I even ended, I cut the date short because I was like, I'm really not one for wasting my time. I'm really not one for being in places that I don't want to be. If I don't want to be there, I would just leave. So I left. And then like halfway up the road, he's messaging me like, you're even more beautiful in real life. When can I see you again? Where was this energy?
Yeah.
Where was this energy, sir? I just met you. Who is this person that I can see through the so that frustrated me so much. I think that like tops. What are you gonna say, Sophie?
I think that's what's really difficult nowadays. Like, I think, I don't want to say my husband again because I feel like I said it so much today, but I started dating him just before, in my opinion, that online dating had that massive boom. So I dated him a couple of years ago, and this is when all of me and my friends were expecting to meet people organically. And I think now organic is probably going to be online in a couple of years. That's going to be the organic way. But I feel like 4 years ago, it was like meeting someone in person through a friend or someone talks to you onto the street or whatever. And I think online dating is kind of taken out that skill that guys had to have to be able to talk to you, because it's so easy to be confident online, to kind of talk and to not have the inhibitions of the way that you look or the way your mouth looks, or she's so beautiful, I'm taking a gasp bite, I don't know what to do. So I think that's really tough for him. And I think people, men and women, need to really work on their people skills, because being online doesn't help people to do that. Like, I'm one of the generations that remember before computers came in, so you remember what it was like without, where it's a generation now who don't have that memory. So I think people are much more reliant.
That's why I had to just make clear that my people skills are 10 out of 10, maybe even 11 out of 10. I just had to make that clear. Like, this is not the issue. And this is why I even came off dating apps for a really long time, because I am that person. I know that sometimes it wastes my time, because like in-person energy, I'm so big on, and speaking to someone without the gap of having to think about what you can reply to, like just having conversation like how we're having a conversation now. Like, we're learning each other, we have a dynamic, we have a friendship, like, because we're able to speak like that. Whereas if we were to have met in text, like, would we have still liked each other the same way? Because there's all those different things of, you know, if you say something to me and I read it in the wrong tone, maybe I read it in the tone of the way that I'm feeling on that day, and I take you the right. There's all those things going on. So I 100% would prefer in-person human connections. But to quote Lily Allen, it is hard out here for a bleep. Like,
well, ladies, let me hear you for my worst date. My worst date was,
please, I want to hear it.
Yeah, it wasn't even a date.
Okay.
So basically, I had gone out with my girl. So this is going back, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, right? Gone out with my girl. We'd gone to some party, and I won't lie, I was looking pink. You know, I was looking gorgeous. I was feeling myself. And I remember we were in a group, and this guy kept on looking at me, but I wasn't really in the mood, so I just kind of like walked away. So then later on at the end of the night, we are going home. It's like 4 or 5 a.m. and a group of us stop to talk again. And then I get to actually see this guy properly. I'm like, oh wait, he's actually nice, you know. I was like, why did I walk away before? So in this group now, he's proper directing this. It's like we're having a one-to-one conversation. He don't care about anyone else. Like, he's talking to me. I swear, there's a long story that is associated with how we exchange numbers, but I'll leave that on for another day. So let's just say eventually we exchange numbers, right? So I expect, if you are approaching me, if you want to get to know me, if you take my number, you will call me the next day. Yeah. And when I say the next day, bear in mind that we were together at like 4 to 6 a.m. in the morning. So I expect a call that day that we're in.
Yes,
I'm just saying,
girl.
that's just me.
Set them standards, girl. Set them standards.
Sophie, say it. If you don't say it, who's going to say it for you? So you know, as expected, as expected, he called me that same day. Conversation was going calm, you know, very, you know, there were similarities, you know, he basically ticked all the boxes that I'd like. So now it's time to go on this date. He's asking me, okay, am I available such and such day? I'm like, yeah, fab, we'll make it a ding. We'll make it a ting. Let's say, is it half an hour before I'm about to get in my car? This one messages me, oh, I'm sorry, my brother's sister's gone into labor. I'm like, babes, are you the midwife? But okay. Are you delivering that child? Okay. He's gone into labor. He can't make the date. I'm like, all right, cool. You know, we'll leave it there for now. He's trying to rearrange with me. I'm like, fine, we can do next week. Next week comes. I don't even know what excuse he flew to me this time. I said, you know what, babes? Let's leave it here, because I'm not the one you cancel on twice. Okay. Sorry. Eventually he drives down to my house and we sit in the car and we have a little conversation. And, you know, he starts feeling me, like he's feeling me. When I say feeling me, I don't mean physically feeling me, but I can tell that he's enjoying this conversation, right? But I'm kind of reserved now. I'm like, sorry, this isn't a date to me. This is a conversation we could have had on the phone. So if you want to date me, if you want to court me, you got to do it correctly. So he's like, okay, don't worry, I'll sort out another day. Third time lucky. Do we go out? Nope.
No.
One fantastical. I said, you know what, I'm done. So anyways, long story short, he bumps into me at a party, a New Year's Eve party. You know, it's just gone New Year's. He sees me, he takes me to the side. Yeah. I'm like, babes, you're really wasting my time because there are a lot of men in here that want to come and talk to me and you're taking up all my time.
You better tell him.
Him, no, you are taking up all my time. And I said to him, whilst you're umming and ahhing, debating whether to knock on this door, by the time you knock on the door, someone else will be living there and occupying your space. So if you want to move with me, you've got to move correctly. What happened? I met my boyfriend. I met my man. We've been together 4 years. This guy lost out. So we got to set standards when it comes to dating. So even they're like,
Guys,
Did you say 4 years?
You guys ain't never had no bad dates. These are not bad date story. Anissa, you go, but I'm going to come back and tell you a bad date story.
I had a horrible date, and it's the reason why I wouldn't say I'm luxury and lavish versus cheap and cheap, but I don't know what I was talking about earlier, like maybe the dates are bad because of the person's personality. No. I think the dates are bad because of circumstances and environmental factors, and that could be because of the money that you've chosen to spend. So what I mean by that,
yeah,
I don't need you to bring me up to Hakkasan for the first date. You know, don't give me Uber XL when Uber exec and Hakkasan. It's not what I need. Do you know what I mean? But I do think for a first date, you should have a bit of effort. Do you know what I mean? You want to court me. I want to court you. I'm going to do up the hair, the makeup, the outfit. I'm going to look cute, honey.
Yep.
I expect you to be looking cute. And even if we're doing something active, you know, casual, cute, like I need an effort because it wasn't even a first date, but it was just a worst date, okay? We'd already been out, okay? And so this is somebody I was seeing. And so he said that we were going to go out to dinner. So I said, oh, okay, that's fine. The last minute, he said, no, like, he can't go to dinner, but, like, can I just come to his house and we'll just watch a movie? Now, unfortunately, I don't play the house girl thing, so I'm not your girlfriend. I just don't go to your house. It's not my business. But I said, you know what, I'm going to be open because also at the same time, everyone told me, Anissa, you have to do more personality than the way that they look. You're not attracted to everyone, blah, blah, blah. You grow an attraction, which I believe is a lie. So I was like, you know what, you're not my type, but I think you're handsome, but you have a nice personality. So I'm just going to go along with this. Okay, the dinner is cancelled. Okay, I'm going to go to the house and watch the movie. Now, when I live watch things, I'm a live commentator, okay? Even if I'm watching on Netflix, so I tweet at the same time as I watch things. It's just my life. So I'm at the house now. I'm sitting on my side of the sofa. You're sitting on your side of the sofa. I'm deciding, oh, God, why am I using my own data? So I said to him, first of all, he didn't even have snacks. I want to be clear. There was no snack. He didn't even offer me water. So I was sitting there with my parched mouth, okay? And then I said to him, what's the Wi-Fi? What's the Wi-Fi? I need it. He said, what Wi-Fi? I said, the Wi-Fi in your house. I need it for my Twitter. I can't be using my data. He went, oh, I don't have Wi-Fi. I said, what do you mean you don't have Wi-Fi? He said, I don't have Wi-Fi, but I can personal hotspot, if you like. I said, personal hotspot? I said, no. I said, no, why don't you have Wi-Fi? He says, why would I have Wi-Fi if I have unlimited data? I said, but that's just on your phone. How do you power your Netflix and your laptop and your PlayStation? I don't understand what you're saying. He was like, oh, yeah, I just hotspot it one at a time. At that moment, I just thought to myself, no, I cannot. So I excused myself and said, thank you, but no thank you. And I left, and we no longer spoke. Because I thought, if you don't even have Wi-Fi, there's nothing to be here. Because I don't expect myself to those kind of conditions. So why would I let somebody else do that to me? I thought, no water, no snack, you cancel dinner, and you don't have no Wi-Fi? Absolutely not.
Guys,
As if the Wi-Fi was the final straw.
These are tame examples. I went on a date with a guy, and he had this is some time back. He had about 10 years on me, so he was older, he was mature. I'm like, again, I was talked into it, and that's one of my things. Don't let no one talk you into a date, because I have been talked into dates, and I'm just like, I should have gone with my gut instinct, and they weren't worth the date. So I go out with this guy. Strike number one for me, he took me to a Chinese buffet. I'm just like, don't take me to a buffet on the first date. You need to let me know that you're willing to spend. Don't take me on the Chinese buffet. Don't bring out a discount card. Don't bring out a coupon. First date, don't do it. Set an example. We go to the Chinese buffet. Girl's feeling a little parched. I'm drinking my drink. He goes to me, don't drink that too fast. You know they're £2 each. I was just like, oh, okay. So we're chatting, and he's just like looking down my top. He was like, you know, I like breasts, as you can tell. Yeah. So I was just like, I just want to say, caveat, I was young at the time, so with the knowledge I have now, I would have just said, you know, my friend, here's your £5 for the food. I'm out. I was too young.
Could you say how young?
I think I was 19 or 20, maybe 20,
Damn.
maybe early 20s, very early 20s. And then, so after that now, he was like, I want to return something to a shop. He got this scent, this fragrance. He was like, I didn't buy it from this shop, but I'm going to see if man can work a thing. I was just
Absolutely not.
He went to the shop, he was just like, oh, can I swap this? Can I do a little deal? Can I... And I was just like, oh, I was dying of embarrassment. Then he was like, let's go cinema. I was just like, okay, then. We go to the cinema. He goes to the counter. He was just like, oh, yeah, I'm a student. And they're like, can we see your student card? He was just like,
No.
I forgot it. And they were just like, we can't give it. So he was like, fine, he'll pay full price. And I was just like, we went to go get snacks. And he was just going to the guy, you know, dude, you're black. I'm black. Just give me a large, but charge me, you know, come on, let's just work a thing. And I will never forget the way the woman at the counter looked at me with this. She was just kind of like, and that's your man.
Yeah.
Okay, Sophie, you win that one because
I went to die. After that, he took me back to the station now, and I had travelled clean across London to go on this date because he was just like, he was finishing up with work or whatever. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, you coming back or dropping me back? He was like, no, I just live down the road, but, you know, have a safe journey. I was just like,
absolutely.
oh. And he was like, so where's this going? I was just like, you know, it's not going anywhere, and it's just not going anywhere. So, guys, you don't know about bad dates. I've been in them trenches 4 years. It's just terrible.
Can I just say, okay, so to any like older man trying to date a younger woman,
yeah,
please don't, unless you're gonna give that full sugar daddy experience. Like part of me, for real, because part of the interest in dating older men is you're supposed to be on my level of intelligence. You're supposed to have your life together.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You're supposed to have your funds together as well. Like even if you're younger and it's like something like, oh, they have their own apartment. Oh, they have their own car. Oh, they have like a Monday to Friday job. Like give me something. You can't be coming with if I'm 19 and I'm dating a 30-year-old man, you can't be coming with a 19-year-old boy energy. You can't be bringing it. Chinese buffet is where I used to go when I was 13 years old.
Look,
honestly, what are you doing?
Don't take me anywhere that I can go when I'm shopping in Westfield and I'm hungry. Like, I can't be shopping and I'm in Zara. I'm just like, Linda, girl, I'm tired. Let's go catch a Nando's. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
And now don't take me on a date to Nando's. I'm not going to do it. Like, for me.
I'm going to say it straight. I know the men who are watching this might be like, oh, but I got no. It's not even about being a gold digger. And like Anissa said, you don't have to take me to Hakkasan for the first date. I'd like it. I enjoy Hakkasan, but you don't have to take me there for the first date. But you have to make an effort. And what I truly believe is this, right? And I'm not saying that you get into a relationship to share finances and, you know, to completely lavish someone else with your money and your hard earnings, etc. But if you are not financially ready, right? That means that you have checked your finances and you are aware that, you know what, I cannot take this person out to somewhere that is a quality standard, and I cannot go out to trips, and I can't, you know, maybe go golf or go on holiday. Then, you know, my friend, don't date yet. And I'm saying this not just to men, I'm saying it to women as well, because one of the things with me, like my boyfriend, our first date was a restaurant in Soho and West End. Not my favorite restaurant of all times, but I could tell that he made a bit of effort. You know, we do different activities, we go on holidays, and it's not just him that pays, you know, don't get twisted. I do spoil him and he spoils me too, but it's because we are both financially in a position where we can do that. So men and women, I'm saying, if you are not financially stable, then just leave the dating game for a second until you're ready. And also men in particular, if you are going to date a woman, I'm not talking about people who are in same-sex relationships, because I'm not too equipped to talk on that. But men, if you are going to court a female, I'm sorry, but Nando's is not the thing.
No, it's not. Like,
but guys, I don't really agree with not being able to date until you're financially stable, because that's why I said at the beginning, like, the point is you can be creative. Like, I don't need you to have money. I just need you to have the personality that attracts me. So you can be creative with a small amount of money and get Sophie, stop it. Sophie's like, nah.
My mum said to me, when you go on a date, you tell them. My mum said to me, when you go on a date, you'd be like, I'm not bringing my purse. Do you still want me to come? Like,
Wow, really?
That is the level my mum was saying to me, like, Sophie, you let them know what your worth is. And it's not like I wouldn't bring my purse. I obviously would, because if things go south, I need to find my way home and whatever. But for me, I've gotten to a place in my life, I'm like, there's a level of expectation. And I don't think it's about spending a lot of money. I agree. Because like Nando's is even cheap these days. It's not. Nando's isn't even cheap. If you're going to pay for 2 people to eat at Nando's, you've at least got £30 in your pocket. Yeah. You could take me to a little festival that's doing Mexican food. You can tell me to a little this or that, £5 entry, and buy me a burrito. And it shows more thought because you've thought about it. But taking me somewhere where we have to line up, we don't know if we're going to get a table, there's 50 people around me, I can't hear you. You are not setting the tone for the sort of relationship that I want to be in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but that's nothing to me that is to do with creativity.
Jump on quickly, because I just think it's not that you have to be like, you have to be balling, but for me now, if I was younger, then I'd say, okay, it doesn't matter if you don't have I'd say it doesn't matter if you don't have money, you can date freely. But me now, in my age, if at this point do you know what, life happens and hits you, I completely understand that. But if at this point you are not financially stable, then I would prefer you to concern your efforts with stabilizing yourself economically versus trying to court me, because in the long run you need to make sure that you're stable. I'm just saying that from my age, like now that I am over a particular age, we're not dealing with the struggles we were doing when we were 15 and 17. I'm a grown-ass woman now. I need you to have it together if you're coming to me.
Exactly, because I'm having it together too. Like, we're in this together. And I think the reason about financially stable, as you get older, for me, I'm like, it's starting to say something. And that doesn't mean a lot of money. If you have a plan, and I dated a guy, just when I got with him, he quit his big job because he was going back to university, so he didn't have as much. But he had a plan. He had a goal. If you have no plan and you have no money in your pocket, but there ain't no life plan, you're not studying for your PhD, you're not going back to retrain as a carpenter, like, what is it that you're doing? Because you need to be like, are we in this together? Like, the point is, if you don't have any money and I don't have any money, eventually it is going to be an issue. Because how are we going to do things so that, is it every time we're going to go for a walk? Every time we're going to sit in the yard and watch a film on Netflix? I expect
money, babes.
I expect more.
I hear the thing about ambition, and this is probably like something that I've struggled with, because for me, like, ambition is so important. And I don't mean you need to want to feel like you want to be the prime minister or something, but you need to value your life enough to have a plan for it. And that, to me, is an attractive quality, especially because you're going to be dealing with a very ambitious babes on the other end. And I need you to not be intimidated because you have your own plans going on. You know, so I've even had I've had scenarios where, like, I mean, I was dating this guy and he was trash. Let me just he was not great. And I don't want to keep calling men trash, but he was. No. But I was doing a show and I was in a different city, and I could have stayed to go to the after party of the show, but he was also performing. So I came from the city that I was performing in to watch his performance on time. But because he was intimidated by me doing this and doing that, and sometimes he'd like pick me up from auditions or pick me up from castings and blah blah blah, he was frustrated at the fact that I saw a bigger vision for my life than he did for his. Or sometimes it's like a reminder that you're not really working as hard as you think you are when you meet someone who is about it, who's really about that life. What are you going to say?
I don't think that has anything to do with his ambition, and that has to do with probably how he sees himself as a person. He doesn't have enough self-worth in himself to be confident in what it is that he's doing. Because I probably would have said I wanted to date an ambitious guy in the past, but I think now that I've met my husband, that's probably not what I want. Like, he has made me realize that it's better to have somebody who has purpose in what they're doing. Because
that's what I'm saying.
Nowadays, we put ambition as to making money. If he's ambitious, you know, you want to be the top, you want to be the lead. But my husband, I've never said this, but my husband's a pastor.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he very much loves what he does. Like, he's just like, I've been called to this. This is the only thing I've ever wanted to be my entire life. And it ain't bringing in big bucks, girls. Like, if someone's going to have to earn more money, it's going to be me. And I do. And he's comfortable with that. And he's comfortable in himself, in his manhood, because he's just like, I know what I bring to the relationship. I know what I bring to you. I know who I am. But he's so contented with the job that he does and loves doing it. It's made me rethink, actually, I want that for my life. I want to wake up excited and feeling I have so much purpose in my job. It just lights my heart on fire to do it. So for me, that's now what my goal would be if my husband dies, not if we broke up. Anyway, I don't want to say break up because I'm not speaking that into my husband's life. So that was the only way.
The only way we're breaking up is if you die, bro.
Exactly. That's the only way you're getting rid of me. So for me, it would have to be someone who feels called to what they're doing. And if that's the bin man, and you're just like, I just love my job because I get to really make streets clean, do it, babe. But
that's exactly what I meant by saying loving your life enough to have a plan for it, because you have ambition, you have purpose, you want to be here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love someone who loves themselves enough to create something for their life. And I don't it's not relating to money, because I think what we've learned through this conversation, that I don't really care about that. That's not the most important thing to me, because I feel like I can meet you at any stage of your journey. And if your personality shines through, then it shines through. I don't really care if you have enough money to like fund it. That's not important to me. Like, who you are, how you see the world, how you see yourself, how you see the people around you, and how you see me is always going to be the most important thing for me when considering entering into a relationship with someone.
I agree. And I agree with both of you, because I've always said that I want a man that is a boss. And it doesn't mean that he has to be, the boss at work. It just has to be a boss of himself. And I think that's what everyone's saying, is that we want people that
spiritual gangster.
To be a boss of yourself. Spiritual gangster, spiritual bad man.
Yes, they are. And I'd like to say my husband still dropped big money on our first date. So stay from that. But ladies, we have girls, I had so much fun talking to you today, and I just want to say thanks to everybody who has listened and watched to Ethnically Speaking this week. We've loved every single minute of it. We hope you have too, and if you have, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, but we really want to keep the conversation going. So if you've had a bad day, let us know about it. Put your answers and what you experienced down below in the comments. And next week, we are going to be reading out the worst ones. For a summary of everything we've been talking about today, go over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES004. You'll find the link in the description. If you've been watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And we have some breaking news for you today and every day going forward. Ethnically Speaking is now a podcast as well. So if you prefer listening rather than watching, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast players and tune into all of our episodes. We'll be seeing you the same time next week. But until then, stay safe and stay alert.